Well, there's some good news for residents of Ogoni land in Rivers State, southern Nigeria, who've waged a long fight for environmental, social and economic justice. The Ogoni cleanup exercise has been launched by President Muhammadu Buhari, and it could last for decades as well. Channels television correspondent Emmanuel Ereyi reports.
Ogoni land, a territory covering some 1,000 kilometers in the southeast of the Niger Delta, sits on rich deposits of oil and gas. Oil exploration and production in the area generated revenue for the country for over 50 years, but the effect of the activities left behind environmental degradation.
This area used to be a mangrove, but what it is today is a shadow of itself. A large area ravaged by oil spill, a mixture of water and crude oil.
Over the years, the voices of the Ogoni people have echoed their pains.
All over Ogoni, you have sites that have been rendered useless to fishing activities and farming activities.
In our days, when we close from school, you drop your bag, you change up, you go to the river, and you catch some fish before you come back home and make your food. But this time, you go to the river, you won't get anything. You go to the river, you just rub crude oil all over your body.
The environmental consequences of oil production on Ogoni land gave rise to agitation by the Movement for the Survival of the Ogoni People, MOSOP, led by the late author and activist Ken Saro-Wiwa, and later militancy by militia groups such as the Movement for the Emancipation of the Niger Delta, MEND, and recently the Niger Delta Avengers.
The Ogoni struggle in 1990, we've been almost more than 25 years down the road. And we're getting to a very crucial moment in the struggle when the issues we raise are being attended to. It means that Ogoni people need to work together as a community, as a people, to ensure that peace prevails in the area.
Although oil exploration and production ceased in the area in 1993 because of the ensuing violence, the damage to the ecosystem remains. Following a request by the then Nigerian President Olusegun Obasanjo in 2006 for the United Nations Environment Programme UNEP to conduct a comprehensive assessment of the environmental and public health impact of oil contamination in Ogoni land, the agency released its report in 2011. The implementation of UNEP's 258-page report, which recommends joint contribution of $1 billion to fund the environmental cleanup of Ogoni land, has been a long-awaited remediation process. Now, it has become a reality with the launch of the cleanup in Bodo community in Gokana local government area, in fulfillment of President Muhammadu Buhari's promise to implement the report during his campaign.
Today, we are in Ogoni land, in the heart of the Niger Delta, to fulfill our promise to you and to bring justice and succor to our people.
For the indigenes and other interested parties, all must support the exercise.
I want to assure Mr. President that the SPDC joint venture remains committed to actively participating along with other stakeholders to ensure that the cleanup is embarked on as soon as possible.
Our story started a long time ago. We have suffered failed promises, false starts, but because of the emergence of one man to the leadership of Nigeria, the Ogoni story has changed for the better.
And for the Ogoni people, this is a redress for decades of their struggles, which will remain part of Nigeria's history of oil discovery in the region. Emmanuel Ereyi, reporting for Channels Television News.
You're watching Africa 54. I'm Vincent McCory. Now, Zanzibar Island is off the coast of Tanzania, and it's one of the world's leading producers of seaweed, a big part of the island's economy. But as Sophie Tremblay reports, rapidly warming ocean temperatures are threatening the industry.
Sihaba Mustafa has farmed seaweed in these waters for 28 years. At low tide, she ties seaweed branches to a rope. She then plants the strands row by row in the ocean with wooden pegs. After 6 weeks of growing in the water, Mustafa returns to harvest the seaweed. She depends on the income to provide for her family.
The harvest pays for our medical expenses and for the children's school fees.
After the seaweed's collected and dried on the beaches of Zanzibar, it's then exported to Europe and North America, where the gel it produces, carrageenan, is used in common household items like toothpaste and ice cream.
Zanzibar is the third biggest exporter of seaweed in the world, but in recent years, exports have fallen by 30%. Zanzibar's leading expert on seaweed says rising ocean temperatures are to blame for the decline.
Global climate change is really affecting the seaweed farming here. The seaweed that we farm usually require water temperatures between 25 to maximum 30 degrees. But nowadays we can measure even 38 degrees, and such high temperatures will kill the seaweed.
Mustafa used to farm seaweed all year round, but she's now only able to harvest a few months a year.
For now, I don't have any worries because it's the rainy season and the seaweed is growing well. But the problems will come during the hot season because all the seaweed will die in the hot sun.
The seaweed farming industry employs more than 20,000 people, mostly women, and is the main source of income for many families in Zanzibar.
Every day you will find prices for other commodities are rising, but for seaweed, the price is falling. And that leads us farmers to get many challenges because we need to support our children.
Masia and her team have been working with the Tanzanian government to come up with ways to cope.
One of the things that we saw is that if the seaweed is farmed in the deep waters, the seaweed can grow better in the deep waters. But for the farmers to go into the deep waters, they need the means of going there. They need the boats. The women cannot swim, so maybe they would need life jackets.
Mustafa says if the warming trend continues, she'll have to find another way to provide for her family. Sophie Tremblay for VOA in Zanzibar.
It's time for us to take another break. Before we go, a reminder to visit our website, channelstv.com, for all the latest information day or night. You can also find us at youtube.com/channelsweb. Still to come on Africa 54. Kenya's annual Rhino Charge brings off-road competitors together to find out who can tackle the most inhospitable terrain in their vehicles. And the money goes to nature conservation. That story after the break.